In this video, I'm going to cover just questions 1 and 2 in Miller chapter 20. I'm going to read them and then give you some shot at some kind of an answer as soon as I can find them. Here we go. The Campus Pizzeria sells a single pizza for $12. If you order a second pizza, however, the pizzeria charges a price of only $5 for the additional pizza. Explain how an understanding of marginal utility helps explain the pizzeria's pricing strategy. Well, diminishing marginal utility and diminishing marginal returns more broadly, I want to mention that because it's so important, it's everywhere, is something that most people engaged in trade have a pretty good understanding of. At least they will get there iteratively by watching consumer behavior. So what I'm saying by that is the pizzeria knows that the first pizza is the one that you and I want the most because it provides the most utility. The second one provides positive utility, but not at the same rate that the first one does. And so we're not willing to pay as much for a second one as a first one. But if what the amount is that we are willing to pay for a second one exceeds their cost, it's still profitable for them to sell us an additional pizza. And so they're charging us a rate per pizza according to the utility that we get from the pizza, because that sells the second pizza. Whereas if they just kept it at 12, they wouldn't sell it at all. So even if they only make $1 profit on that second pizza, if the price was 12, we don't value it at 12 because we don't value it the way we valued the first pizza, so we wouldn't buy it, so they wouldn't make that $1. So I hope that helps you get the meaning of the pricing strategy. Now the second one is very closely related to the first one. In fact, it says to build on it, basically. As an individual consumes more units of an item, the person eventually experiences diminishing marginal utility. This means to increase marginal utility, the person must consume less of an item. Explain the logic of this behavior using the example in problem 20-1. So there are two ways to think about something as being less. There's actually decreasing how much we consume of something. And then there's consuming a lesser amount than we did last time. It's two different ways of using the word less. So let's make sure we explore both. The first pizza, we clearly value at least $12 because that's what we're paying the pizza place to make it for us. The second pizza isn't going to give us as much utility as the first one did because we've already had a pizza, or we already have a pizza, and the second one's just going in the fridge as leftovers. That's what I do anyway. So they only charge us $5 for that one. So we could say we would get less pizza for our second pizza than we would for the first because we get less utility from it. That's kind of hokey. That's not real clear. But we don't value it as much, and that we need to be clear on. We don't value our second unit as much as our first unit. We value the third unit even less than that. We value the fourth unit even less than that. We value the fifth unit less still. Eventually, we get disgusted with pizza, or we're going to hurt ourselves trying to consume this pizza. And at that point, we would possibly be in negative marginal utility. And if we were in negative marginal utility, go back to my lemonade video if you're not following what I mean. Usually we don't go there. But if we were, we would increase our utility by consuming less of the good. So maybe if we are trying to force feed ourselves the 8th pizza and we're really doing damage to our old tummy tum, we would increase our utility by consuming 7 pizzas instead of 8 because that 8th one is harming us. So that is the instance where we would actually consume less of a good or service in order to raise our utility, as if we are in negative marginal utility. I hope that's been thought-provoking and interesting for you. Certainly, of course, it was for me.